Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We're glad to have y'all tuned in here with us this afternoon. Hey, I got my buddy here with us tonight, Chad Bryan, and we got a special guest here with us, uh, direct director of the CatMasters, Bryan St. Alma. Man, it's great to have you with us tonight, Bryan.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Glad you invited me.
Yes, sir. Chad, how's your week been going, my friend?
Man, it's good. How about you, Stacy? You staying busy building rod holders?
Chad, we staying busy doing a little bit of everything. Oh,
It keeps you out of trouble.
yeah, guys, if y'all coming into the program, I want y'all to do this for me for a minute. I want you to take your time out, tag a couple of friends that you know, tag them. If you would hit that share button, share this program right here. We're looking forward to a great night tonight. We're going to be talking tournament catfish and some of the stuff that the CatMasters is doing, the event that they had from this past weekend, and the thing that they got going on. So we're looking forward to an exciting night. What's up, Mike Graham? Good to see you, man. Bryan, as we get started tonight, man, Bryan, tell a little bit about yourself and just sort of introduce yourself and tell a little bit of how y'all got started and work your way up to where y'all at now.
Well, I started, I've been trophy catfishing for quite a while, and we didn't really have anything here in Texas as far as tournaments. So I guess it's been about 7 years ago, we decided to have a tournament at our local lake. It was more for, I was on the chamber at the time, and it was more for putting heads in beds in the wintertime around the lake, and also support catfishing. Enjoyed trophy catfishing at the time and still do. And it kind of grew from there. Went from one tournament a year to 7 tournaments a year, pretty good sized tournaments. That's kind of where we are now. And we've kind of evolved different kind of tournaments. We turned into a trail. Went from single big, we paid out $30,000, $25,000 for first place at the beginning, and then turned it into a trail. And now we're fixing to try some new stuff coming into 2023.
That's what I've fished one or two of your events that y'all had here in Alabama, and that's one thing that you guys do. It's not a typical, 1-day tournament. Kind of go into how you evolve these tournaments into something more than just your typical tournament.
Well, a lot of the things that we try to do. I'm an angler, so I look at things what an angler wants. Something different, something challenging. Fish. I like fish, and I fish a lot of 1-day tournaments, but all of ours are 2 days. With our fish regulations, which we love, most times we're after 3 fish, and I feel like with 3 fish maximum at some of these tournaments, not that it's easy, but that's when we push the bar to do it 2 days. Can you stay ahead for 2 days? Are you good enough an angler to do 2 days of tournaments and lead both days? And that's because we see a lot of times in single day tournaments where and I've been lucky. You can catch an 80, 90 pounder and get in the top 5 real easy on a single day tournament just with 1 fish in a 3 fish tournament. So we started off doing 2-day tournaments. We've had a lot of guys ask us if we would move to single day. It's hard to fish 2-day tournaments, get off more time to fish 2 days, but I don't know that we'll ever do that. I think we'll always be a 2-day tournament. And that's kind of how we got started, is doing things different. Most tournaments that back then we fished were you couldn't have more than 2 people, and we made it for 3 people. We're fixing to make a big change the other direction, but we've just always kind of want to change it up. There's a lot of great tournaments out there now. 7 years ago when I was fishing tournaments, 8 years ago, even 10 years ago, the tournaments kind of were few and far between. I would say not very well ran. But today there's a lot of great tournaments all over the country. And we want to try something different, give the anglers something different to do, something challenging. And that's what we look at when we do a 3-day tournament with qualifiers and stuff like that. So we try to try to do different things to challenge the anglers. Something that a lot of stuff that we create is stuff that I would want to fish, and that's kind of how it comes from.
Well, you can tell, Bryan, from, and I just come acquainted with the CatMasters, when y'all started moving over this way. And really, I probably the first time that y'all run the 3-day tournament where we was originally going to fish 2 days to qualify for the last day, until it stormed us out. But when I come up there and was involved in that, I'm like, I really like the way that the CatMasters, the way that y'all run the trail, the way it was laid out. I just felt like, hey, these guys are doing something that's a step above. I felt like it was really something in moving into the more professional type level of what y'all was trying to do. And that's just a feeling I got from the CatMasters.
Right. Well, again, that's just, we'll never know whether we'll make it, to a pros type level, but we feel like we need to make those steps and try to get it there, versus just being the same old tournaments all the time. This is just, to us, the things that we do in the future is just another step to possibly get to a point.
Well, I'm going to give you props, man. And hats off to you. I've got nothing but respect for what y'all done, because y'all have done a good job at this.
Yeah, I mean, your production stuff and all that stuff, the way that the tournaments ran, I mean, everything is a step above a lot of the other stuff that's out there.
Thank you. We try, we have a small budget, so some of the things we do are, just buddies getting together, and like this past weekend, it was no budget, and try to put something together, which I thought, with no budget and just guys getting together and putting it together, and Ty and Spud and Jesse did a really good job on the production. The storm came in and messed everything up, but overall, I think it turned out pretty good. And it was more of a practice to see what we could possibly do in the future.
Well, while we got a chance here, while we on this, Bryan, tell a little bit about what happened this past weekend. What did y'all do? What was the setup here? Just tell a little bit about what y'all was doing this past weekend.
Well, what we wanted to do is something similar to what Major League Fishing does, where you weigh, or you catch, weigh, and release. We had a mystery fish involved as well, because we're going to still have basically a stage finish at the end of our tournament. So we kind of messed around with some rules, and we made a 5-pound minimum. So we're going to weigh every fish that you catch all day long. And we had marshals on the boats. Some boats had cameras on their boats to film it, so we could actually show the public or viewers what the anglers were doing. To us, a big part of this is the educational value of fishing for catfish, or trophy catfish, or tournament fishing. We want the anglers to share what they were doing. We want to get more people in the sport, and we think that's a big part of it too, is the anglers describing what kind of rigs they were using, what they were fishing, how they were fishing, what depths they were fishing, speeds, planter boards anchored, all the details we had a captain's meeting on Friday night, and that was the biggest thing that we tried to discuss with our anglers, is that part of it. And it's hard. These anglers that fish these tournaments this past Saturday, we all travel all over the country fishing tournaments, and we're really good about zipping our lips and don't talk to other anglers. We don't want to share what we're doing. And sometimes it's to the point where, even on the game day, if it's a 2-day tournament, you don't want to share, or even share after the tournament. And we feel like this type of event needs to have the educational value to bring in more anglers, and teach them a lot. There's a lot of new anglers out there that want to know, and we get a lot of those questions on our social media, is how do I get involved in this? And that's what we want. And we've got a lot of private messages since Saturday that enjoyed that, because they learned something. And that was a big point we were trying to do too. And the competition side of it. It was going into it, I was pretty relaxed, but on the morning of, the competition side of it was just like any tournament I fished before, whether it's a big 200 boat tournament.
Now, Bryan, one of the things that you made mention of here, because now the being able to get the word out to a lot of people. I know we're in a net group or network here on social media where we're dealing with people. The majority of people we deal with is like me and you and Chad and Aaron. We all catfish. We all do this, and we go through the tips and techniques, and we all know this. But for the most part, for a lot of American people who catfish, they don't have a clue what is. I mean, the sport is so narrowed down that they don't have a clue how to catch these things. They don't know what we're doing. I see a lot of people all the time. You pull up and you got plenty of boards laid in the bottom of your boat, and they're like, "What are them for?"
Right.
Yeah, what is that? How do y'all do this? And we catfish, and they're like, "Well, we catfished all of our life, but we ain't never seen this." And so they're very limited on knowledge. And the only way that I feel like that this sport can really excel is getting the people, hey, this is some tips and techniques. And Bryan, what y'all done this past weekend, and if somehow or another that catfishing can ever make a scene on national TV, I honestly believe that catfishing will blow up.
There's no doubt.
I don't know about y'all, but where I'm from, you can tell people. They say, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I fish some catfish tournament. I ain't never even heard of a catfish tournament." And the majority, 90% of the people you see, or even more, don't even know that this is even going on.
Yeah, I have a wrap truck and a catfish tournament boat from Sea Arc Dynasty, and I travel all over the country with that truck and boat. And it's not uncommon to pull up to a gas station almost everywhere I go and have a conversation with somebody next to the pump that don't realize that catfishing is as big as it is. And I mean, even this past weekend when I was at Texoma, I had questions. People asked me questions at gas stations, and right there at a lake.
Well, Bryan, I was the last trip I was headed up that way. It was the last tournament that was up there around Wheeler. I was headed up, and I'm within 50 miles of Decatur. I pull in my boat, my truck, and a guy pulls up beside me. And it says SmackDown Catfishing. The first thing, do you catfish? We love to catfish. And so you get out there and you start showing them, hey, man, this is what we catch. I didn't know they had catfish tournaments. And I'm like, you within 50 miles of one of the best lakes in America. You don't know nothing about this.
Yes.
Hey, we've had our boat on the water, and our boat had a big picture of a catfish on the side of it, right? And I can't tell you how many times fishermen have stopped us on the lake and said, "Hey, y'all catching any crappie?" What do you mean crappie? Well, you got them rod holders. You got to be crappie fishing, right?
Yeah. I have the same thing.
And I think the only way that this sport can evolve and continue to move forward is exposure. And because just like these guys you see, if you pull out and say, "Let me show you what we're catching," and they go, "Y'all catch fish like that?" Yeah, on rod and reel, because they ain't never experienced that. And they like, "I cannot believe this." And I'm like, well, I'm telling you, when this is exposed out there, I believe the American people will go crazy over it.
As soon as a fish over 50 pounds is caught on live TV,
I'm telling you, it's over then.
I have some friends in the pro side of bass fishing, and we've had this conversation, and they agree. They agree that when social media or even TV sees a competition where anglers are catching, fish over 20 to up to 70, 80 pounds on a rod and reel in a tournament, it's going to be a different viewing versus the viewers that watch 2 to 4 pound fish caught and get excited. Now we're talking about two different kinds of people, but the viewing factor of it is a lot different.
That's the same. I believe the same thing. Hey, when you see on live TV where you see one of them videos like Bryan Muse is pulling one out and that fish is flopping everywhere.
Yes.
People gonna go crazy over that.
Yeah, it's very entertaining, and just a little bit of the stuff that we're able to do on Saturday. That's private messaging people we don't know. I'm not sure they're anglers. I think they're just people that enjoy watching catfishing. Watched it, and we got a lot of cool stuff. Mentionings privately about they learned something, they got to see something. All of our tournaments across the country, and most tournaments are like this, is we go out and we fish all day and we show those fish off in front of a stage. And that's basically it. And we award the anglers. This format is something that where you're able to see what the anglers are doing. You actually see some action. The anglers are talking about some of the rigs that they're using. And I think that, we think that if we have the anglers that'll share during that tournament, I think that's very educational. I think it'll help our sport grow.
Yes, sir. Well, Bryan,
you talk about tips and techniques, but until people see them in action, I've helped people that wanted to learn how to pull boards and drag baits, and you can tell them, but them actually seeing it with their own eyes makes it click. It makes a lot of sense then, and it helps.
Even my marshal on my boat that day saw a difference of something I was doing, and he's been, he's a good friend of mine. He's actually a fishing partner of mine. I've learned a lot from him, and I've tried some new things. We don't always fish together, but I had some new techniques and some new rigs I was using Saturday that I tried at the Cabela's Championship last month, and he was, he got to watch firsthand sitting on the boat, watching me catch fish, and he goes, "Where'd you get that?" I need some of those. Where'd I buy those at? But it's it's educational. I didn't get to share a lot of that. Hopefully we'll get to do some more of that on our post-production stuff from this past weekend. But yeah, it's unique.
Chad, we got anything in chat? Any questions in chat?
Al St. Cyr said that he enjoyed it, but he don't know if he can sit on a boat all day without fishing again.
No, that's what my marshal said. He said that within the first hour, and I get that. I figured that would be a problem.
See a rod go down, you want to jump to your feet.
Oh man, you're antsy. I can hear them over there stomping their feet, clearing their throat. I know. I fished with the girls during that that female tournament, and I was the same way. And I figured that's what it was going to be. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun watching him over there squirm all day too.
I was just fixing to say, Bryan, my problem would have been when the rod went down was hollering, "Get him, get him, get him."
Yeah. My son was my cameraman. He's not a big angler, but he would even clear his throat. When you're fishing by yourself, you're not, you're getting a rig tied up, you're fixing something, whatever. So your eyes aren't always on your rods. And I finally told him, I said, you know what? If they bend that rod over, that's good. I don't have to get on it immediately. Let them take it. I've got the drag set like I want it. You don't have to clear your throat and beat your feet on the floor.
Hey, Shay McDonald said his wife whooped his butt. She's paying the boat note from now on. And Aaron said doing it all by himself made him change the way he fished about halfway through the day. I know I talked to Aaron on his way back, and he told me, he said, "Man, by the end of the day, I wasn't letting out 300 feet of line on all my rods."
I was the same way.
Hey, you know what? And I'm telling you, I fish by myself a lot, and it will change the way, because when you got somebody fishing with you, reeling 3 reels in versus 6 reels, it's a big deal to me.
Yes. It is.
When you by yourself, you're like, "All I got is 3 to reel up. My partner's got 3." But when you by yourself, you got to reel all 6 of them up.
Yeah.
Hey, when you fish by yourself, Stacy, do you pull your anchor, or do you just use spot lock instead?
When I fish by myself, I don't throw that anchor out near as many times as I do when I got a partner with me.
Yeah, I only pulled up my rods one time all day when I figured out that the time it was going to take to pull everything in, move to whether it was 100 yards or 200, it was going to take too much time, the fishing time. So I basically just did big circles. But I dropped one of my rods in the water in about 48 foot of water. Luckily it was still hooked to a Parks planer board, so I had to pull everything up immediately and retrieve that rod. And that was the only time all day that I pulled everything up.
Well, Bryan.
Hey, Marty Bardo said, "What's your favorite technique to fish for big fish?"
My favorite technique?
Yeah,
that would have to be bumping. To me, bumping, there's nothing like it. I enjoy pulling planer boards, but I prefer to be bumping down the Mississippi River. I just live too far away from the Mississippi River to do my favorite technique, but it would be bumping the Mississippi River. And that's where my two largest fish have came from, is bumping.
And that is addictive to me. To me, I was talking to a guy this past week at Catfishes, and he said he'd never done it. I said, I'm telling you, there's nothing like a catfish, a 35, 40-pound catfish hitting this rod with it in your hand.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I enjoy it too, but Stacy and I have talked about it. To tournament fish, you need to be well-rounded. You need to know how to drag baits, because there are certain times of the year and certain places that's going to be your go-to. There are certain times of the year where anchor fishing that's how you're going to catch them, and certain places where you have to bump baits. But I do love bumping that Mississippi River too.
Yes. Oh, there's we have times here in Texas. It's usually second or third week in February that just where I kind of became a big fan of trophy catfishing, was sitting in 2 foot of water anchored and watching these 50 to 70-pound catfish slap their tail on the top of the water and then grab your bait and take off. That's kind of addicting too. We just don't get to see it year round. There's just certain parts of the time of year. Kylie said that Saturday where she was fishing, that's what they were doing. They were actually showing themselves slapping the water and then grabbing her bait in 2 foot of water and taking off. That's pretty fun to watch.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. Bryan, this coming up year, CatMasters. Tell a little bit about that, man. What's y'all? Just go a little bit of detail about this year coming up.
Well, January, February, and March, we're finishing off our season. So we have PK in January, we have Wheeler in February, and then our classic, what we call it, our final of the season, will be at Toledo Bend. And that'll finish off our year. So we still have 3 tournaments left. If you're looking to chase the points, our points race is the best 3. So I know there's a lot of anglers I've talked to that are fixing to finish out or try to finish out and join in the points race, finishing out with the last 3 tournaments. Moving forward from that, I can't speak on it really high details. We're really working on a lot of stuff right now, but I can tell you Major League is the Major League Tour is where we're going. Destinations is what we're trying to get finalized, the structuring of it. That was a part of what we were doing Saturday, is trying to figure out how we would do it. Still got to make a lot of plans and details where it's going to be a solo angler event, and that's something different than what we've seen in the past. We all fish with partners all over the country, but the CatMasters moving forward will be different. It'll be a solo event.
Well, when y'all first posted this, I reckon it was probably new to a lot of people. And when I first started tournament fishing, I was bass fishing. And that's what I fished. I fished a solo event. That's all I fished. I didn't fish with a partner. I fished right by myself. And I liked it that way. And
yep. It's, it has some setbacks, where we have a lot of people. My wife is going to fish with me in Alabama in a tournament come January. And there's, a lot of families travel together, and it's going to kind of take that aspect out of it. But there's a lot, this is the time that we see an opportunity to do this, because there's so many great tournaments out there in the country where anglers have the opportunity to still do that. We're not taking anything away as far as CatMasters. We're just going to try something different. And we feel pretty good about it. We think that it'll like I say, the educational part of what we're doing. That's yes, Aaron, you do.
He said, "Millimeter, Aaron."
I need those scales back for the future events. I think I've got one. All the anglers took them home with them.
that was their
Hey,
door prize.
Yes, yes. And we had a great company that donated those for our tournaments, and they worked really good. So yes, Aaron, I need those. I'll see you in January. I'll get them back.
There's another question here. Y'all going to try? Is there something in the future to get something like this on the outdoor channel?
I don't know. I don't work with. I have not working with anybody that does TV stuff. Our goal, our goal is more social media stuff, YouTube. I don't know how most people are. I don't watch a whole lot of fishing on TV anymore. I watch it all on social media. I watch catfishing, bass fishing, crappie fishing. I'm watching on social media, YouTube.
Now, Kevin Keegan's got a question here too. What kind of a boat limit do you see in the future with that?
I kind of got a pretty good idea. It's going to start off between 50 and 60 boats.
Yeah, that right there. Oh, yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, and you'll qualify to go into the final day.
Yes, sir. Chan, what else you got on there, man?
Man, I don't have a whole lot of questions. Aaron said he ain't sending them scales back. He said they're bad to the bone. He'll send you some money.
Right. That's fine too. I'll just buy some more.
We've all talked about it. And there's plenty of tournament trails out there if somebody doesn't want to go to the level that you guys are trying to get to. There's a lot of local trails. There's a lot of fruit jar tournaments where, hey, you and your kids and your wife can go and fish that tournament. But there needs to be something out there for the guys that want to do more in the sport. And that's kind of what you guys are aiming for and shooting for. Am I right, Bryan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we want to, again, this kind of falls back on as an angler point of view. I wanted to, I've fished tournaments all over the country. I want to try something different. I've learned a lot on Saturday. I'm still tired from Saturday, to be honest with you. It's a lot more physically challenging when you're by yourself, and that's pre-fishing all the way up to game day. And to have a 2-day tournament in the future as a single solo angler is going to be tough, physically challenging. We see that even with 3 teammates. So that's going to be a big part of it. Now, not to say that you can't, when you're pre-fishing, if there's some pre-fishing allowed, you can't have somebody on your boat that's, practicing with you, whether it's your wife or your family or just an angler that you're fishing with. That's not, I don't see that being a problem, but pre-fishing rules will be different than we've done in the past. So time on the lake before a tournament, you may not have.
I like that.
So that's some of the things we're looking at. We want to make it challenging. We travel all over the country, and not to say that a team can't travel from here to Alabama and beat the local guides, because we've seen it happen many times, or a team from Alabama go to Texoma and beat the local guides. But a lot of times we see where that participation is not necessarily there because they don't want to go compete against the guide that's fished every day. And nothing against guides. Some of the guides in our industry are some of the best anglers in the country, and they can go anywhere and do well. We've seen that.
Mike Mitchell can go anywhere and catch fish.
Mike Mitchell is one of them. Daniel Armstrong on Lake Texoma is another one. We just don't want. We would like to see where there's some off limits times where you're not keeping up with the fish every day or beating up the fish the day before. Because I know I do this, but I'll stay out of my area and go fish your area just for fun. On Friday.
Well, you know what I do, Bryan. I'm the same way. I do very little fishing before the tournament. And I'm like, I don't want to really be seen in certain places. And I'm like, I'm going there, I'm looking, and I'm like, let's go somewhere else. If we're going to fish, we're going way down to the other end of the lake and fish today, but we ain't going up around where we're going to be fishing at.
Right. And a lot of times where, I end up in somebody's hole that they were going to fish in the tournament day. And that's some of the things that we're going to look at to try to alleviate in our event in the future.
Yeah. I like that idea. I really like that. And I got where what few tournaments I fish, I really don't fish a lot before the tournament. I spend a lot of time riding, looking, and
we
I'm just trying to scout. It's just all I need to do. I got to find where the fish is at.
Yes.
And I really don't want to be fooling with them. I don't want to be messing with them. I want to save them for that day that it counts.
Right.
I don't want to catch them on Friday. I want to catch them on Saturday.
Right. I want him fish on Friday. I'm like, hey, I done. Once I find what I want, I'm like, hey, I'm through. And then that, you made mention a while ago, because I've had this happen to me. You being tired, you go out there and the tournament's Friday or Saturday, and you get there Monday, and by the time the tournament gets there, you just warp. I'm like, I'm not wearing myself out.
Yeah,
I got to be ready for the day that counts.
Yes, I'm the same way. And I know there's some anglers watching that fish Saturday, but I think I was the only angler that didn't pre-fish Friday out of the group that fished on Saturday. I think Trey didn't either. I think Trey went out and caught him some bait. I ended up having to work on Friday. It wasn't planned, and I got there late, didn't get on the water. I did go to – this is my 5th time to be on Lake Texoma, but I went last Sunday and looked around and fished a little bit, and we did some practice on social media stuff on Sunday. And I kind of got a pretty good idea what I wanted to do on Sunday, and I stuck with that plan.
Bryan, I'm gonna bring up something else because I wanna make sure I give a shout out to y'all. I noticed here, I think it was this past year, wasn't you and Alex and Charles fishing together a good bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, Alex and I haven't fished together yet, but Charles and I have. So I think Charles and I fished
and done really, really well. I always watch it when the tournaments are over. I always go around look at the top 25, and see who's there. And I got to notice that, man, a lot of these tournaments, your name and Charles, and I think Alex and Charles fish some. And I'm like, they constantly up there, man, in this top 10, top 5. I'm like, because when you start doing that consistently, hey, that ain't luck.
No, it's not luck. Well, I fished with them. Me and Charles fished a couple 2 or 3 tournaments this year. Last year, we started we met at Natchitoches, the Cabela's Championship. That's where we met. I met Charles. I knew Alex, and we kind of pre-fished together and started hanging out. We ended up 1st and 2nd in that tournament. But they're serious anglers. When you go pre-fish with them, I mean, they spend daylight till dark learning the water, and just like we do. I fish with Coy a lot, Mick a lot. We're very serious. We'll stay up if we don't get any sleep the night before the tournaments, because we're changing everything, our rigs, it's a very serious we're very serious going into game day. And I think that has a lot to do with how they do and why they do well.
I was fishing with somebody, I don't know, a week or so ago, and he was going to tie a rig, and he just handed it to me. He said, I can tie this, but I know you're going to retie it anyway. He said, I don't understand why you're so picky about your knots and stuff. And I said, listen, dude, that's one thing that I can control. I'm going to make sure it's done right.
Yeah. I think we've all experienced what, if you're not in control, what could happen. You don't have very many opportunities in a tournament.
Yeah. And that's the key, Bryan. That's the key to when you go to any kind of trophy catfish and tournament fishing. There's some things that's out of your hands, but when you're out there fishing, it's hard enough to hook up with that big fish. And the last thing you want to happen is some kind of mistake on what
a controllable mistake.
Being lazy and not doing the right. Hey, I should have changed my leader line out because I seen it had all these nicks on it, and I didn't do it. And you just hung up with one that was a pole bender, and your line got
Yeah.
cut or broke.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm bad, man. When we throw all our rigs out, you know, the first thing I do is I go through and I check the drag on every one of them, because you put them in your rod locker and out of your rod locker, you're going to bump those drags. And, you know, you just got to check all that stuff. Everything that you can control, you got to do it.
Yeah. I'll tell a story, and I hope he's not watching, but during the Cabela's Championship a few weeks ago, on the second day, Charles, we're having a rough day. We were in second place going into the second day, and Charles hooked up on a monster, a giant. And this is one of the little things that you don't think about, and I thought about it a lot on Saturday, is you get complacent. You know, he's reeling this fish in, and he got too comfortable. And he looked over at me. He says, I guess you can go ahead. He's telling me, I guess you can go ahead and put some bait on that other rig. And he's got a pole bender. And he just starts talking to me. And I said, why don't you worry about that fish on the other end of that line? We don't have anything in the live well. And he kept talking. And the parks planter board was coming up the line, and he still had his head turned. And I said, hey. Oh. And that 1 second that he pulled his rod down and gave it slack, that fish came off.
Bam.
And he was mad the rest of the tournament. But it's the little things, concentration through the whole 8 hours or 7 hours. When you've got a fish hooked up, you got to concentrate, because those, especially on a 3-fish tournament, every fish, every hook counts.
Yes, sir.
Unders win a whole lot of tournaments.
Yes. And it was in my mind all day Saturday. Every fish meant a lot. I had one particular time, and I didn't know what to do, because I've never been put in this spot before, but I had a fish on, and I had 2 other rods bent over. If I was recreational fishing, I probably would have stepped over there and cranked down on a couple of them and took my focus away with the fish. I decided not to do that when it happened. I decided to go ahead and stick with the fish I had, make sure I got that fish in the boat, because a lot of times those fish will hook up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen, but I didn't want to mess with that. I didn't want to go over and crank them down. And so I don't know. There's a lot of things that can happen during a solo tournament that can mess you up. And I had a few mistakes, but I learned from them.
Yes, sir. And you're going back to talking about when you making sure that it's important that you get that fish in. You know, if we hook up with a big one, and me and Joey's out there fishing a tournament, we hook up with a big one. And, you got 6 rods out. If we got a couple over here suspended, I'm running them suspended reels up, because I'm like, I don't need this fish to hang
up in anything.
Nothing. I'm tilting the motor all the way up. I'm like, I don't want nothing, because this is important when we get this fish in this boat.
Exactly. After that happened, he actually pulled socks in. We did everything to make sure everything was clear, but you had, the angler had opportunity just to fight that fish and get it to the boat, get it in the net.
Yes, sir. And then, hey, I want to tell you, them socks are important, because I hung a big blue years ago up on Wheeler. I was by myself, had a drift sock hanging behind the boat about 15 foot. You know what he done?
Wrapped all up in that dude.
Rolled over the top of it, hung up in it. I'm telling you, I'm like, this joker is a monster. And when I'm by myself now, or if I'm got somebody with me, when I hang into one, I'm like, pull the drift sock in now. Yeah. Get it in. Yeah. I done lost one fish like that. I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah. I tried to pull one in on a good one on Saturday, but when you're by yourself and it's really windy and you only have one hand to try to pull that rope in, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah. That's tough.
Wow.
That's tough. Yeah. Well, man, before we jump off of here, Bryan, is anything you want, any else, other thing you want to say or give a shout out to anybody? Man, take your time.
Well, I like, some of them are watching. I like to thank the anglers again, and Jesse and Spud and Ty, and they spent basically the Thanksgiving weekend this weekend to help us try to come up with a structure and format that's never been done in our industry before. And I want to thank them for taking their time out and coming and fishing. We had a really good time. I did. And I want to thank them, and just look forward to some of the stuff in the future that's coming up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to say this before we jump over here, because I made mention a while ago, Bryan, that the CatMasters have done a really good job at what y'all do. I know there's a couple more tournaments out there that I feel like sort of nation branded tournaments. And I want to just give a shout out to like the Twisted Cat. I think Alex runs that. Cabela's and the MRM. Guys, I appreciate what y'all doing.
Yeah, we do too.
It's really pushing the sport, I think, to another level.
Yes.
And nobody really realizes, and I don't, because I've never done it, but I've watched how much work goes in behind the scenes of putting one of these tournaments like this together.
Yeah, ask Spud. Spud helped us out, behind the scenes and on the camera, and he can give you a little more idea what it takes to. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know, and that's why I don't fish my own tournaments. I did this one more for the practice and learning what the anglers would need, what the camera guy might need to do, what the marshal needed to do. So moving forward, we could write up a structural format of rules to learn and what would happen on a boat. And, I'm an angler too. I kind of wanted to fish it. It wasn't something that was a big money tournament. So I got the opportunity, one and only opportunity this last Saturday, to fish my tournament, or a CatMasters tournament. That'll be the last time that happens, but I enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Well, Bryan, man, we appreciate all that you're doing, man. You and the CatMasters, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're fixing to get ready to jump over here. And Bryan, if nothing else, I will see y'all in Decatur in February.
Yes, sir. I'll actually be there. Are y'all going to be around in January?
We'll be there at the MRM.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we'll be. I'll be there. I reckon, Chad, you gonna be at both of them?
I know I'll be at the CatMasters. I don't know about MRM yet.
I'll be at both of them. We'll be there at both of them. And
I'll see y'all then.
Yes, sir. Hey, good to have you tonight, Bryan. And hey, have a blessed week, man. Guys, we will see y'all next week.
Before you go, I just wanted to show Shay and right here in my. Is it right there?
Yeah, we can see it.
See that?
Yes.
Just wanted to poke at him for a little bit.
Guys, I want y'all to tune back in with us next week. We're going to have Larry Muse on here with us next week if all goes according to plan. And I look forward to seeing y'all then. Guys, we're fixing to jump over here, and y'all have a blessed week this week.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.